Welcome back to Iron Fate Stories. How is your day going today? Today, we're diving once again into incredibly exciting and thrilling stories about bikers. If you enjoy the content, please like, share, and subscribe to get notified about the latest stories. Enjoy the show.
Homeless boy carried a biker's daughter 13 miles through a blizzard. 500 bikers. Came Cassvale stopped breathing in Noah Gray's arms at mile 9. Not a dramatic movie pause, just a quiet, terrifying nothing. Her head lolled against his shoulder, her lips the color of ash, and the wind erased the sound of his own voice when he screamed into the blizzard. Snow sealed his eyelashes, his knees buckled, and in the whiteout ahead, the only lights he could see were moving away. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. Break. Noah forced himself upright. The storm didn't care that he was 17, or hungry, or barefoot inside soaked boots. It had one rule. Stop moving and you disappear. Cass, he said into her ear, like a name could keep a heart tethered. He only knew it because it was stitched inside her glove. Cass. Like she'd been labeled in advance for someone who would come looking. He shifted her higher against his chest and stumbled forward. The road was gone now. The world was wind and sideways ice, but he could feel the slope under his feet, could tell he was still on the mountain cut and not drifting into the trees. Out here you learned to read danger fast or you didn't learn anything ever again. It had started with a sound that didn't belong in a blizzard, metal tearing, glass popping, then a dull, body-deep thud. Noah had been sheltering behind the cinder-block wall of an abandoned pull-off, trying to keep his hands from turning into claws. He told himself to stay put. Trouble was for people who could afford hospitals. Then he heard a thin, broken cry. He ran. The snow erased distance. One moment there was nothing. The next, there was a small SUV sideways across the lane, front end folded in like paper. Hazard lights blinked weakly through the white. The driver door hung open. "Hello?" Noah shouted. Nothing answered but wind. He found her by the passenger side, half buried in a drift, helmet still strapped under her chin, visor cracked, black riding jacket, an eagle patch in silver thread. Under it, a name, Vale. Her breathing was shallow. Her pulse fluttered like it might quit if he startled it. Her fingers were turning the wrong color. Hypothermia was already winning. Noah checked her pockets for a phone. Nothing. No bag either, no wallet, like someone had reached in first and taken the pieces that made her a person on paper. And then he saw the tracks. A second set of tire marks, fresh, cutting across the snowbank and back onto the road like someone had stopped, loaded something, and left in a hurry. Behind the SUV, drag marks led to the ditch, and a hard rectangular imprint sat in the snow where something heavy had been pulled out. Noah stared into the whiteout, waiting for help to appear. No headlights, no figures, just storm. He lifted his own battered prepaid phone. No service flashed once, then again, like it enjoyed the joke. Move, he told himself. He tried to carry her over his shoulder and nearly dropped her when her head tipped. If she vomited, she'd choke. He changed his grip, hauling her against his chest, her arms draped around his neck like she trusted him. She didn't. She was just too cold to fight. Now, miles later, she wasn't fighting anything at all. Noah stopped, turned his body to shield her face from the wind, and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Too faint. He tilted her chin and listened. Nothing. "No," he rasped. "No, no." He slid to his knees without letting her touch the ground, bracing her against his thigh. His hands shook as he tore at the helmet strap. The buckle fought him. He yanked until it snapped free and lifted the helmet away. Cass's face looked too young without it. Her lips were pale blue. Her lashes were iced. Noah sealed his mouth over hers and blew air into her lungs, slow and controlled, then planted both hands over her sternum and pressed. Hard, straight arms. Counter panic would eat him alive. 1, 2, 3. Snow packed against his knees, wet soaked through his jeans. He didn't stop. 28, 29, 30. He breathed again. Somewhere down the pass, engines rumbled, deep, multiple. Headlights flared through the storm like knives. Relief hit him so hard he almost laughed. He waved his arm until his shoulder screamed, "Help, please!" The lights swept across the road behind him and kept going, past, away. Whoever it was had a destination that didn't include stopping. Noah's stomach dropped through his spine. He hauled Cass back into his arms and staggered into the road, still waving, still shouting until the last red taillights bled into the snow and vanished. He stood shaking, hands still raised like it might pull them back. Then Cass coughed, small, wet, ugly, alive. Noah nearly collapsed with her. He tightened his hold so fast it hurt. "Yeah," he gasped, voice breaking. You stay with me." Cass's eyes fluttered. No words, just a thin exhale that steamed and disappeared. Noah didn't waste the miracle. He shoved her helmet under one arm and started walking again, faster now, as if speed could erase the miles he'd already lost. The storm shoved snow into his mouth and down his collar. His fingers went numb, his shoulders burned. He kept shifting her weight so her blood would keep moving, so she wouldn't sink back into that quiet nothing. A bent signpost rose out of the blowing snow. Noah leaned close enough to read it. Briar Ridge, 7 miles, 7 more. He looked down at Cass and saw the eagle patch again. Vale, not a school, not a brand from a mall, something that meant grown men with loud engines and rules he didn't know. He thought of the tracks by the wreck, the missing phone, the headlights that had passed without stopping. Whoever had been on that pass tonight had seen him. Maybe they'd even watched him lift her. Maybe they'd already decided he was the easiest story to tell. Noah tightened his grip and kept walking toward the faint smear of orange glow that might have been town lights, or might have been the storm lying. The next mile came like a punishment. The wind shifted sideways and tried to spin him off the road. His boots slid on packed ice. He leaned into the gust and pushed forward, using Cass's weight like an anchor, even as his arms went numb. Cass stirred against him. "Sorry," she whispered. "Don't talk," Noah said. "Just stay with me." A gust ripped the helmet from under his arm. It bounced once, then skidded into the ditch and vanished. Noah flinched, but he didn't go after it. He couldn't afford to chase anything except warmth. He talked to her anyway, steady, desperate. "What's your name?" "Full name." "Cassidy," she breathed. "Cassidy what?" "Vale." Hearing it out loud made the patch mean something. It made the missing phone feel less like bad luck and more like a decision someone had made. Cass's lashes fluttered. "Dad's gonna kill you." It wasn't a threat, it was fear. "No," Noah said, voice cracking. "Your dad's gonna be grateful." "Gage," she whispered like the name was armor. Noah swallowed. "Okay, Gage. Tell Gage you're alive." Cass's face tightened with pain. "They were behind me." Noah's stomach dropped. "Who?" "Lights," she whispered. "Close, then hit." Her eyes rolled shut. Her head sagged. The storm shoved them forward as if it didn't want him to hear any more. A mile marker rose out of the snow. Noah aimed for it like a finish line, then used it to measure the next 100 steps, anything to keep his brain from counting the impossible. He stepped wrong once, and his boot slid off the edge where the asphalt dropped toward the ravine. For a heartbeat, his body tilted, and Cass's weight pulled him down. Noah snagged a roadside post with his free hand and yanked back, shoulder screaming. "I've got you," he whispered into her hair. "I've got you." A dark metal box appeared ahead, an old emergency call station. Noah nearly cried. He slapped the button. Nothing, no voice, no dial tone, just a thin crackle of static that died like it was embarrassed to exist. Cass started shivering hard, deep, violent. Noah's panic spiked. He dug into his pocket and found a crumpled grocery bag he carried for his own feet. He tore it open with his teeth and wrapped it around Cass's soaked boots, tying it off with lace ends until his numb fingers slipped. "It helps," he muttered. "It's stupid, but it helps." The orange glow ahead sharpened into fixed lights. A fence line, a low building. Noah could make out iced-over letters above a gate. Briar Ridge County Road Services, locked gate, padlock. Noah shook it until his teeth rattled. Cass's breathing thinned again. Noah backed up and slammed his shoulder into the chain. Pain flashed white. The lock held. He hit it again. The third hit snapped something in the link with a sharp metallic crack, and the gate gave just enough. He squeezed through, stumbled across the yard, and yanked at the side door. Locked. He found a window, frost-clouded, dark inside. No movement, no help. Cass made a faint wet sound that could have been a cough, or could have been the last one. Noah raised his elbow. The glass gave way under the impact. The glass didn't shatter like in the movies. It groaned, spidered, then collapsed inward with a soft crunch that sounded too quiet for how desperate Noah felt. Cold air rushed into the broken frame like it had been waiting its turn. He pushed his forearm through the jagged edge, ignoring the sting, and raked the remaining shards out of the way with his sleeve. Blood welled up warm and bright, immediately turning thick in the wind. He didn't look at it twice. He couldn't afford to. Noah lifted Cass higher, stepped onto the sill, and slid inside. Dark, stale, the smell of old oil and wet concrete. He turned, dragging one leg over, and almost fell when his boot caught. Cass's weight shifted. Her head bumped his shoulder. "Sorry," he whispered, then realized he was apologizing to a girl who might not even hear him anymore. He found the wall with his fingers and felt along it until his hand hit a switch. Nothing happened. The building was dead. No power, no heat, no miracle. But it was walls. It was windless. It was a place where the blizzard couldn't peel them apart. Noah lowered Cass onto the floor as gently as he could, then immediately regretted it. The concrete sucked heat like a mouth. No. He yanked off his own jacket, thin, ripped, not worthy of being called a jacket, and spread it under her like a blanket. He tore a piece of cardboard from a collapsed box near the door and slid that under her too. Anything between her and the cold, Cass's shivering had gone from violent to weak. That was worse. Shivering meant fight. No shivering meant losing. "Stay with me," Noah said, and his voice came out rough, angry, like he was speaking to the storm itself. "Open your eyes." Cass's eyelids fluttered. Her pupils looked too big in the dim. "Hurts," she murmured. "I know." Noah forced calm the way he'd forced air into her lungs. "Tell me where." "My side." Noah's stomach tightened. Internal injury, broken rib, something he couldn't fix with grit. He needed warmth. He needed a phone. He needed anyone. He searched the room fast, a workbench, rusted shelves, a dented cabinet, a half-collapsed couch that smelled like mice. At the far end, a break room with a vending machine and a sink. He tried the faucet. Nothing. He tried the vending machine, shook it until it rattled. Dead. He found a maintenance closet with a mop bucket and a box of shop rags. He grabbed the rags and shoved them under Cass's jacket, around her neck, around her wrists. "Don't fall asleep," Noah said. "I'm not," Cass whispered, but her voice had that drifting quality, like she was already halfway somewhere else. Noah pulled out his phone again. Still no service. He lifted it higher, moved toward the broken window like maybe the storm would show mercy if he begged in the right spot. One bar flashed. His thumb nearly dislocated itself, mashing the call button. 911. Ring. Ring. Nothing. The bar vanished like it had been a hallucination. The screen mocked him with "no service" again. Noah pressed his forehead to the cold wall and breathed through his teeth. He could hear the storm hitting the building in waves, snow slapping metal siding like hands. Somewhere out there, people were driving. He'd seen lights, he'd heard engines, he'd watched them leave. Cass shifted and made a soft sound that ripped him away from the wall. Noah crouched beside her, put his hand near her mouth, felt faint breath against his skin. Still there. He needed fire, not a big one, not the kind that filled a room with smoke, but heat. Just enough to keep her core from dropping again. He searched for anything usable. In the break area, he found a rusty barrel. In the corner, a pile of old paperwork and flattened boxes. Under a shelf, a half-empty container of windshield washer fluid and a can of something that smelled like gasoline when he cracked it. Noah's mind flashed through every warning he'd ever heard in school, every "don't" that assumed you'd survive long enough for safety to matter. He poured a tiny amount of fuel into the barrel, barely a splash, then tore a strip from his shirt, twisted it into a wick, and set it on the paper. He held his shaking hands over it, trying to decide if he was about to save a life or poison both of them. Cass coughed. Wet. Weak. Decision made. Noah struck a lighter. The flame wavered, almost went out, then caught on the wick and crawled onto the paper like it was hungry. Heat blossomed, small, fragile, but real. He dragged the couch closer, then stopped. Foam and fire was a fast way to die. He instead pulled a metal chair and used it to block the draft from the broken window, then turned his body into a windbreak at Cass's side. "Okay," he said, forcing his voice steady. "We're not dying in here, not tonight." Cass's eyes cracked open. You live here? No, Noah swallowed. I sleep wherever the wind's not trying to kill me. Why? He almost laughed. The question was so clean, so normal, like the answer could be a single sentence. But he didn't have time to explain his mother's hospital bills, the landlord who changed the locks, the foster home that smelled like bleach and rage. He didn't have time to explain how hunger turned into a skill. Because it happened, he said. Cass stared at him in the firelight. She looked at his hands, raw, red, cut, looked at his thin jacket, looked at the way he kept glancing toward the door like he expected someone to kick it in. You could have left me, she whispered. Noah didn't answer right away, because that was the truth. He could have. That was what the world expected. That was what everyone who drove past expected. Instead, he asked, What were you doing on that pass? Cass swallowed. Heading home. From where? She hesitated. Clubhouse. Noah's throat tightened. So Vale meant that. It meant bikers. It meant the engines he'd heard. It meant a father who had enough people to fill the roads looking for her. Cass blinked slowly. My dad. Gage, Noah said, her eyes focused a little. Yeah, Noah leaned closer. Cass, listen, were you alone when you crashed? Her expression tightened like pain sharpened into memory. Lights, she whispered again, behind me, really close. Did they hit you? Cass's eyes slid away. The corners of her mouth trembled. I think. Noah felt cold settle into his stomach that had nothing to do with weather. Did you see the driver? No, a beat. But I saw boots. Boots. 2 men. Her words were slow, forced. At my window, after. Noah's pulse kicked. After you crashed? Cass nodded faintly. I couldn't move. They opened the door. Noah's mouth went dry. He remembered the missing phone, the missing bag, the tracks. What did they take? He asked. Cass's eyes fluttered, fighting sleep. Dad's patch, she murmured. My phone. I had something. What something? Cass's lips parted. She tried to speak. A hard, metallic bang hit the side door. Both of them froze. Another bang, closer, deliberate, not the random violence of wind. Noah killed the flame instinctively, slapping the paper in the barrel until smoke died. Darkness rushed back in. Cass's hand found his sleeve, fingers weak but desperate. Noah? He leaned down, mouth near her ear. Don't make a sound. The banging stopped. For a second there was only the storm again, wind, snow, the building creaking. Then a voice outside, muffled by the metal door, calm in a way that made Noah's skin crawl. Open up, the voice said. We know you're in there. Noah didn't move. He didn't breathe. He stayed crouched over Cass in the dark, one hand pressed lightly to her shoulder like he could pin her to life by touch alone. Outside, the voice came again, patient, almost bored. Open up, it's freezing. We're here to help. Help didn't sound like that. Noah's eyes adjusted. The barrel was a shadow. The broken window was a pale rectangle of stormlight. The side door, metal, thin with a deadbolt, shivered under another controlled strike. Not wind. A boot. Cass's fingers tightened on Noah's sleeve. Noah. He bent his mouth to her ear. Shh. He crawled toward the break room, keeping low, using the shelving as cover. He needed something, anything that wasn't his bare hands against a door. His fingers found a tire iron under the workbench, cold and heavy. He gripped it until his knuckles whitened. The lock rattled. Then, silence. Noah held still, tire iron hovering like a prayer. A faint scrape came from the broken window, soft, careful. Someone was testing the frame. Noah's pulse slammed. If they came through the window, he'd be on them before they landed. He shifted, placing his body between Cass and the pale opening. A gloved hand appeared on the sill. Then another. A head and shoulders leaned in, hood pulled low, scarf over the mouth. Only the eyes were visible, reflecting stormlight in quick, searching darts. Noah raised the tire iron. The intruder dropped down inside with a quiet thud and turned, already holding a flashlight that snapped on and stabbed white through the room. The beam hit Cass first. Found her, the intruder said, voice muffled by cloth. Not relief, confirmation. Noah stepped out of the shadow and swung. The tire iron clipped the intruder's forearm. A grunt. The flashlight flew, skittering across the floor, spinning light around the room like a siren. Back up, Noah snarled. The intruder recovered fast, bigger than Noah, moving like someone used to controlling a space. He reached into his jacket. Noah thought gun, his stomach iced. But what came out wasn't a pistol. It was a phone. The intruder held it up like proof. Easy. We're not here for you, kid. Noah's eyes tracked the phone. The case was pale blue, scuffed at the corners. Cass's. The intruder smiled under the scarf. See? We're returning property. We're the good guys. Noah didn't blink. Why were you banging on the door? Because the window's a pain, the man said, and because we didn't want you to do something dumb. Like what? Like call the wrong people. Noah's throat tightened. I tried. No service. The intruder's eyes flicked toward the broken window, calculating. Service comes and goes. You get one bar and you get brave. We can't have that. Noah's grip on the tire iron tightened until his hand ached. Behind the intruder, a second shape moved in the window. Another person, thicker, slower, scanning. 2. Cass made a faint sound, half cough, half whimper. The intruder's head snapped toward her. She awake? Noah shifted to block the view. She's dying. Get out. The man took a step closer. The flashlight beam caught his boots, work boots, snow-caked. Noah remembered Cass's word. Boots. 2 men at her window. Noah's mouth went dry. The intruder lifted his hands slowly, palms out. Relax. We're going to get her to warmth. You did good. Hero stuff. Now you hand her over and you walk away. Noah's mind raced. If these were the men from the crash, Cass was evidence. If they got her, she might not survive the night, or she'd survive without her voice. Noah's eyes flicked to the barrel, the little pile of paper, the fuel can. In the dark, everything was a weapon if you were desperate enough. You're not taking her, Noah said. The man sighed like Noah was exhausting. Kid, you're homeless. Nobody's going to believe you. They're going to see you and they're going to see her, and they're going to fill in the story they like. Noah felt Cass's fingers again on his sleeve, weak but present. The second man dropped inside through the window, landing heavier. No scarf, just a thick beard and a flushed face from cold. Quit talking, the bearded man muttered. Grab her. Noah moved first. He stepped into the flashlight spill and swung the tire iron low, hard, into the bearded man's shin. A roar of pain. The bearded man folded, stumbling into the shelf. Tools clattered. Something metal rang like a bell. The scarfed man lunged at Noah. Noah met him with the tire iron across the forearm again, then shoved. The scarfed man slammed into the wall, recovered, and drove a fist into Noah's ribs. Pain exploded. Noah saw white. Air left his lungs. He didn't go down. He swung blind, caught the man's shoulder, then pivoted and grabbed the flashlight off the floor. He snapped it in the intruder's face. The man hissed and turned away. Noah didn't run. Not yet. He dove to Cass, scooped her up, and staggered toward the main garage door, big, rolling with a chain and a latch. His ribs screamed with every breath. Cass hung heavy, too limp, her head rolling against his chest. Noah shoved his shoulder into the latch, hands fumbling for the chain. Behind him, boots thundered. Drop her, the bearded man barked, limping. Noah yanked the chain free. The door rattled, but didn't rise. Frozen in its tracks. Noah swore through clenched teeth, grabbed a metal crowbar from the floor, jammed it under the bottom lip, and pried. The door groaned. Ice cracked. A narrow gap opened at the bottom, enough to crawl. He dropped to his knees, Cass still in his arms, and shoved them both through into the snow outside. Cold hit like a slap. He crawled, dragging Cass across the drift, then forced himself upright, legs shaking. The yard was a blur of white. The road beyond the fence was a faint dark line. Headlights flared through the storm. Noah's heart lifted, then sank. The lights weren't coming toward him like help. They were coming toward him like they already knew exactly where he'd be. A truck slid through the gate opening, angled to block the exit. Engine idling low. 2 more headlights behind it, spaced wider. Another vehicle. Noah backed up instinctively, Cass tight against his chest. The scarfed man stepped out of the broken window behind him, dropping into the yard like a shadow. Noah was boxed in. The truck's driver door opened. A figure climbed out slowly, unhurried like the storm belonged to him. He wore a county jacket. A badge glinted when the headlights hit it. He raised a flashlight and swept it over Noah and Cass. Then he smiled. "Well," the deputy said, voice loud over the wind, "what have we got here?" The deputy's flashlight beam pinned Noah like a nail. It slid over Cass's limp body, over Noah's bare, bleeding forearm, over the tire iron still clenched in his fist. Then it lifted to Noah's face, bright enough to make his eyes water. Noah blinked hard. "She needs a hospital." The deputy didn't rush. He stood in the snow like he had all night, county jacket zipped to the chin, hat pulled low. His cheeks were pink from cold, but his eyes were calm. "What's her name?" the deputy asked. Noah tightened his grip on Cass as if the question itself tried to pull her away. "Cass. Cassidy Vale." The deputy's expression barely changed, not surprise, not concern, recognition. Behind the deputy, the scarfed man and the bearded man drifted into view, keeping distance, letting the badge do the talking. Like they'd rehearsed this part. The deputy's smile widened a fraction. "Vale, huh?" Noah swallowed. His ribs burned with every breath. "She crashed. I carried her. 13 miles. She stopped breathing. Put the tool down," the deputy said, tone light, like he was asking for a cigarette. Noah looked at the tire iron. If he dropped it, he was just a skinny kid with bloody hands holding an unconscious girl. If he kept it, he was a threat. He set it down slowly in the snow. "That's better," the deputy said. "Now set her down." Noah shook his head. "No, she'll freeze. I'm keeping her warm." The deputy stepped closer. "Kid, you're not keeping her warm. You're contaminating a scene." "A scene?" Noah repeated, disbelief cracking his voice. The deputy angled his flashlight to Cass's jacket, to the eagle patch, to the stitched veil. "There's a missing person call out on her. You're carrying her in a blizzard. You've got blood on you. And your story is you just found her." Noah's jaw clenched. "It's the truth." The deputy's voice dropped slightly, almost friendly. "Truth's flexible when you're the only one talking." The scarfed man chuckled quietly. The sound made Noah's stomach knot. "Get her to a hospital," Noah said, louder now. "Call an ambulance. I broke into the road services building to keep her from dying, that's all." The deputy turned his head like he was listening to the storm. Then he nodded once, as if Noah had confirmed something. "Okay," the deputy said. "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to come with me. She's going to get care." Noah didn't move. "Not if they're with you." The deputy's eyes sharpened. "Who?" Noah forced himself to point without shaking. "Them. They tried to take her, inside the building. They had her phone." The scarfed man lifted both hands like he was offended. "This kid's delirious." The bearded man grimaced, rubbing his shin, then spat into the snow. "He attacked us." The deputy nodded along, like it all fit perfectly. "So you broke in, assaulted 2 county workers." "They're not county workers," Noah snapped. The deputy didn't flinch. "And now you're running around with a minor female in your arms." Noah felt the trap close. He could hear it. The way the deputy's words stacked into a story that didn't need proof. A story that would stick because it was easier to believe than a homeless kid being a hero. Cass stirred faintly against Noah's chest. Her lips parted. A whisper of breath. Noah leaned down. "Cass, talk to him," he begged. "Tell him what happened." Cass's eyelids fluttered. She tried to focus on the light, then flinched away. Her voice came out thin, cracked. "Dad." The deputy's gaze flicked to the truck behind him, where the engine still idled. "Yeah," he said softly. "About that." Noah's skin went cold. "You haven't called him." The deputy's smile returned. "Calls take time. Storm's bad." Noah's brain screamed at him to run, but run where? The vehicles blocked the road. The storm blocked everything else, and Cass's weight was an anchor he would die carrying, yet he still couldn't let go. The deputy reached out, slow, palms open. "Hand her over, Noah." Noah froze. "How do you know my name?" The deputy's eyes didn't blink. "We know a lot." Noah's mouth went dry. He backed up a step. Snow crunched under his boot. The deputy's tone sharpened. "Don't." The scarfed man moved to Noah's left, angling like he was cutting off an escape route. The bearded man drifted to the right, limping but steady. The deputy stayed center, the badge and flashlight doing most of the work. Noah's ribs screamed as he shifted Cass higher. His arms were shaking now, not from cold alone, but from the weight of being outnumbered and unheard. "Cass is hurt," Noah said. "If she dies, that's on you." The deputy's smile thinned. "If she dies," he said, "it'll be because you wouldn't let her go." And then the deputy lunged. Noah twisted hard, turning his body to protect Cass. The deputy's hand grabbed Noah's jacket collar and yanked. The fabric tore. Noah stumbled, nearly falling into the drift. Cass slipped. Noah clamped down, catching her under the arms, but the motion tore pain through his ribs, and he gasped. The sound was enough. The bearded man surged forward and slammed a forearm into Noah's shoulder. Noah went down on one knee, snow exploding around him. The scarfed man grabbed Cass's legs. "No!" Noah roared, digging his heels into the snow, hauling Cass back toward his chest. His fingers clawed at her jacket, at the eagle patch, refusing to let her become a thing they could take. The deputy's flashlight beam swung wildly. "Enough!" A crack of static cut through the wind. A new voice, sharp and urgent, blared from a radio in the deputy's chest. "Unit 12, respond. We've got multiple reports. Motorcycles on the pass. Repeat, multiple motorcycles." The deputy's head snapped up. The scarfed man froze with Cass's legs in his hands. Noah's heart hammered. Motorcycles. The sound he'd heard earlier. The lights that had passed him. But this time, they were coming back. The deputy's face hardened, and for the first time, he looked like someone who might be losing control. "Get her in the truck," he hissed, and Noah, on one knee in the snow, felt Cass's weight start to slide out of his arms again as the first distant rumble of engines rolled through the blizzard like thunder. Cass's jacket slipped against Noah's numb fingers like wet glass. The scarfed man had both hands locked around her calves, pulling with the steady confidence of someone who'd moved heavy things in bad weather before. The bearded one pinned Noah's shoulder with his forearm, grinding him into the snow. Noah fought anyway, not like a fighter, like an animal that didn't understand surrender. He hooked his arm under Cass's back and rolled, dragging her with him, twisting his body so the men had to pull her across his chest to take her. His ribs lit up in a hot line of pain, and he choked on it, but he didn't let go. The deputy's radio crackled again. "Unit 12. Motorcycles are staging at mile marker 8. They're asking for her. Repeat, they're asking for Cassidy Vale." The deputy's face tightened. His flashlight hand shook once, just enough for Noah to see the crack in him. He wasn't calm anymore. He was calculating. "Get her in," he snapped. The truck's rear door opened with a hard yank. A gust of warmer air rolled out, carrying the smell of vinyl and stale coffee. The scarfed man hauled Cass toward it. Cass's head lolled, her mouth opened. A thin sound came out, half breath, half protest. Noah surged up from the snow, ignoring the bearded man's grip, and slammed his shoulder into the scarfed man's side. They both lurched. Cass's legs slipped from the man's hands. The deputy reacted fast. He grabbed Noah by the hood and yanked him backward like he was pulling a dog off a bite. "Enough," the deputy hissed into Noah's ear, his breath smelling like mint gum and something bitter. "You want to be a hero? Heroes die out here." Noah clawed at the deputy's wrist, trying to break the grip. "She's alive because of me." The deputy shoved Noah face first into the snow. Cold packed into Noah's mouth and nose. For a second, he couldn't breathe. Panic flared, then anger burned through it. He pushed up, gasping, and saw Cass halfway into the truck. Noah's fingers closed around something in the snow, the tire iron he'd dropped earlier. Metal, weight, leverage, he didn't even think. He swung, nodded ahead, not to kill, just to stop. The tire iron crashed into the truck's rear door edge with a brutal clang, denting it and jolting it closed enough to pin Cass's jacket sleeve. The scarfed man cursed and jerked, trying to free her. Cass's arm dangled, pale skin against black leather. Noah saw the blue bruise blooming near her wrist, finger-shaped, not from a seatbelt, not from a crash. The bearded man lunged, tackling Noah from the side. The tire iron flew from Noah's hands and vanished into the drift. Noah hit the ground hard, ribs exploding again. He tasted blood. The bearded man's weight crushed him. "You stupid little—" A new sound rolled through the storm. Engines, many. Close enough now that Noah could feel the vibration through the snow. The deputy stood rigid for half a beat, listening like a man hearing a siren behind him. Headlights appeared at the far end of the road, multiple beams slicing through the whiteout, weaving, closing fast. The deputy's jaw flexed. "Move." He yanked Noah upright by the collar, dragging him toward the truck like a sack. Noah's boots scraped, barely finding traction. Cass, half in, half out, made a weak sound. "Noah!" The deputy ignored it. He shoved Noah to the front of the truck and slammed him against the hood. Cold metal bit through Noah's thin shirt. The deputy's gloved hand pinned Noah's shoulder blades. "Hands where I can see them," the deputy barked loud now, performing for whoever was coming. The scarfed man finally ripped Cass's sleeve free and shoved her all the way into the back seat. The door slammed. Noah's vision tunneled. "You're killing her!" The deputy leaned in close, voice low again. "If you keep yelling, you'll make this worse for yourself." "For myself?" Noah spat, shaking. A roar of engines hit the road like thunder. The first bikes tore into view through the whiteout, big cruisers with bright auxiliary lights, tires cutting lines through fresh snow. They slowed in formation, not chaotic, not drunk with speed, disciplined. 5 became 10, 10 became 20, the headlights stacking until the pass looked like a moving wall of fire in the storm. The deputy lifted his radio, voice suddenly official. "This is county. You need to turn back. Roads closed." The lead bike rolled forward and stopped 20 feet away. The rider didn't take off his helmet. He just sat there, engine rumbling, staring. Then another bike pulled up beside him. Then another. More lights arrived behind them, endless, filling the road. Noah's throat tightened. The sight didn't feel like rescue. It felt like the moment before something breaks. The lead rider finally spoke, voice deep, calm, carrying over the wind without needing to shout. "Where's Cassidy Vale?" The deputy's hand pressed harder into Noah's back. "She's being transported to the hospital," he called back. The rider's head tilted slightly. "Then why is your truck still here?" Silence stretched. Snow hissed across the road. A second rider, taller, broader, rolled up to the front line and killed his engine. The sudden quiet made his presence heavier. He dismounted slowly, boots sinking into snow, and stepped forward. Noah saw the patch on his back when he turned. A silver eagle. Vale. The man's helmet came off. His hair was wet from snow. His face was set in a hard, controlled line that made Noah's stomach clench. His eyes locked on Noah first, blood on his mouth, torn clothes, shaking from cold. Then his gaze snapped to the deputy's grip. And in that moment, Noah understood something with absolute clarity. This wasn't just a father showing up. This was a man trying very hard not to start a war in the middle of a blizzard. The biker took one step closer. "Let the kid go," he said quietly. The deputy didn't move. The biker took another step, close enough now that Noah could see the ice crystals clinging to his eyelashes. "What's your name, son?" the biker asked, still watching the deputy like he was measuring distance. Noah's lips trembled. "Noah." The biker nodded once like he'd file that name away forever. "Noah, did you carry my daughter?" Noah swallowed hard. "Yes." The biker's jaw tightened. "Where is she?" The deputy forced a laugh that sounded wrong. "Sir, you need to step back. We're handling—" The biker's voice cut through him like a blade. "Open the back door." The deputy's eyes flicked to the scarfed man and the bearded man. Both of them went still, suddenly smaller under the wall of headlights. "Open it," the biker repeated. Softer. Worse. The deputy held Noah pinned, using him like a shield. "We'll open it when we reach the hospital." The biker stared at the deputy for a long, deadly second. Then he looked at Noah again. "Is she in that truck right now?" Noah's voice came out raw. "Yes." The biker's eyes went flat. He turned his head slightly, not raising his voice, not making a show, just speaking into the storm like the storm belonged to him. "Bring the cameras." Engines shut off one by one, like a crowd holding its breath. Riders pulled phones out, lenses pointing. Someone in the back clicked on a flashlight and aimed it at the deputy's badge. The deputy's face tightened as the world suddenly became evidence. And then Cass screamed inside the truck, one sharp, terrified sound, followed by frantic pounding on the window like she was trying to get out. Noah flinched so hard, his ribs nearly gave. The biker's eyes snapped to the truck, and his voice dropped into something Noah felt in his bones. "If my daughter is hurt in there," he said, "I promise you, this night won't end the way you planned." The deputy didn't open the truck. He didn't even look back at the pounding. He kept Noah pinned to the hood like Noah was the only thing holding the night together, and the bikers, row after row of headlights, were just weather. "Ma'am," the deputy called toward the rear window, voice theatrical now. "Calm down. You're safe. We're taking you to the hospital." Cass's fist slammed the glass again. Her scream turned into ragged sobbing. "No!" Noah tried to twist, but the deputy's hand ground harder into his shoulder blades, forcing him down. Cold metal bit into Noah's cheek. The biker with the veil patch, Gage, didn't shout. That was the worst part. He stood in the falling snow, face bare, eyes locked on the deputy like he was reading him line by line. "You hear her?" Gage said. "Open the door." The deputy's mouth stretched into something like a smile. "Sir, you need to step back from the vehicle." Gage held still. "You're using the kid as a shield." "I'm detaining a suspect," the deputy replied, louder now, for all the phones. "This individual was found with your daughter, broke into county property, assaulted workers." "That's a lie," Noah croaked, and paid for it with a sharp grind of pressure as the deputy forced his face down harder. A rider near the front line raised his phone higher. The flash clicked on, bathing the deputy's badge in harsh white. "Say your name again," a different rider called out. "For the camera." The deputy's eyes flicked toward the phones. He didn't answer. He shifted his stance, angling Noah's body to block more of the view. Gage took one slow step forward. The wind pushed snow across his shoulders. He didn't blink it away. "Listen to me," Gage said, still calm, and the calm was a warning. "You can do this clean, right now. Open the door. Let the EMTs see her. Let the kid stand up on his own 2 feet." The deputy's jaw jumped. "There are no EMTs here." Gage's gaze moved past him, scanning. "Then call them." The deputy's radio crackled again, and this time Noah heard a second voice underneath the static, urgent, unfamiliar. "Unit 12, we have visual on multiple bikes. Stand by. State is en route." The deputy's face hardened. "See? State's coming. Everybody just needs to back up and let law enforcement do their job." Gage's expression didn't change, but the riders behind him did. Engines clicked off fully. Boots hit snow. Men and women dismounted in synchronized stillness, not swarming, not threatening, just forming a line that made the road feel smaller. Noah felt it in his chest, a crowd deciding what it will and won't accept. Gage turned his head slightly. "No cuts," he said to no one in particular. "No touching the deputy. Nobody gives them an excuse." A few riders murmured assent. Someone started narrating quietly for a live stream. Date, time, location, badge visible, minor detained, female screaming inside a vehicle. The deputy swallowed once, quick and involuntary. Cass's pounding slowed. Then her voice came again, thinner, panicked. "Dad!" That word cracked the air. Gage moved before anyone could stop him. Not a charge, just a direct walk to the truck's rear door, as if the badge didn't exist. The deputy yanked Noah's collar, dragging him sideways to keep himself between Gage and the vehicle. "Back up!" he barked, louder, sharper. Gage stopped, slowly raised both hands, palms out, compliance for the cameras, but his eyes never left the truck. "Noah," Gage said without looking at him, voice low enough to slip through the wind. "Tell me exactly what happened." Noah's throat worked. His ribs burned with every inhale, but the question wasn't optional. It was a lifeline. "She crashed," Noah said, voice shaking. "On the pass, no signal. I found her half buried. She was fading. I carried her. She stopped breathing. I did CPR. I broke into road services to get her out of the wind." Gage's eyes narrowed. And the men?" Noah's gaze flicked to the scarfed man and the bearded man standing near the deputy's truck like they belonged there. "They came in. They had her phone. They said, 'Don't call the wrong people.'" Gage's jaw tightened, muscle jumping. "You saw her phone?" "Yes," the deputy snapped. "This is hearsay." Cass's voice cut through, hoarse but clear enough to stab. "They were at my window." Silence hit the road like a slap. Even the wind felt quieter for a breath. The deputy's head whipped toward the truck. For the first time, he looked genuinely alarmed. Cass had spoken in front of the phones, in front of the bikes, in front of the storm. Gage didn't move. He just let the moment hang. Let everyone hear it again in their own heads. Then he said, still calm, "Open the door." The deputy's hand on Noah's back trembled, tiny but real. He was losing the narrative. He needed to regain it fast. He leaned down close to Noah's ear, voice low and venomous. "If you keep talking, I'll charge you with kidnapping, understand?" Noah's stomach dropped. The word kidnapping was a noose. Gage watched the deputy's mouth move near Noah's ear. He read it like a threat without needing to hear it. Gage stepped back half a pace and lifted his own phone. He didn't point it at the deputy. He pointed it at Noah. "Noah," he said, voice steady. Tell the camera, did you ever touch my daughter in a way that wasn't to save her life? Noah's face burned. His hands shook. No. Did you take anything from her? No. Did you try to leave her? No. Gage nodded once, then turned his phone slightly so the camera caught Noah's torn clothes, the blood on his mouth, the bruising on his neck where the deputy had yanked him. And deputy, Gage said, finally letting a hint of steel into his voice, why is my daughter screaming in your truck? The deputy's eyes darted to the road behind the bikes. New lights were coming through the blizzard, different pattern, harsher beams. A state trooper SUV pushing its way up the pass. The deputy's shoulders eased for half a second, like he'd just been handed a weapon. He raised his voice. State is here. Everybody back up. The trooper SUV slid to a stop behind the first line of bikes. Its door opened. A trooper stepped out into the storm, hand near his belt, scanning the scene. Gage didn't budge, neither did the riders. The trooper called out, "What's going on?" The deputy answered fast, almost eager. "Suspect detained. Minor female located. Crowd interfering." Gage's head turned toward the trooper. He lifted his hands again, polite, controlled. "My daughter's in that truck," Gage said. "She's injured. She's screaming. That kid carried her 13 miles through a blizzard, and your deputy is using him as a shield." The trooper's eyes moved to Noah, blood, shaking, pinned, then to the truck, Cass pounding, then to the phones raised everywhere. The trooper took one step closer. "Deputy, let the kid up." The deputy hesitated, just a fraction too long. And in that hesitation, Cass's rear window fogged with her breath as she pressed her face to the glass, eyes wide with panic, looking straight at her father. "Dad," she mouthed. Gage's calm finally cracked, not into rage but into something colder. He looked at the trooper and said, clear and final, "Open that door, right now." The trooper's gloved hand reached for the truck handle. "Don't," the deputy snapped, a little too sharp, a little too late. The trooper paused, eyes narrowing. "Step back, deputy." Gage stood perfectly still, but every rider behind him leaned forward by a fraction, like the whole line had inhaled together. The deputy put a hand up, palm out, trying to slow the world down. "She's injured. We're transporting her. You open that door in this weather. You risk." Cass slammed her fist again. "He's lying." That did it. The trooper yanked the handle and opened the rear door. Cold air poured into the cab. Cass lurched toward the opening, half falling, half climbing, hair plastered to her forehead with sweat and melting snow. Her eyes snapped onto Gage like she'd been drowning, and he was sure. "Dad!" she cried. Gage was there in 2 strides, catching her under the arms, pulling her into his chest. He didn't look at anyone else. He just wrapped her up, his jacket around her shoulders, his hands checking her face, her ribs the way she winced. "You're here," he said, voice low and fierce. "You're here." Cass's fingers clutched his shirt like she couldn't trust the world not to take him away too. "They tried to," she sucked in a sharp breath of pain. "They tried to take me." Gage's head lifted. His eyes went straight to the deputy. Noah, still pinned against the hood, felt the deputy's grip loosen by instinct, like even the deputy sensed the heat changing. The trooper looked from Cass to the deputy, then down at Noah. "Let him go." The deputy's mouth tightened. "He's detained." "For what?" the trooper asked. "Breaking and entering, assault, interfering." "He saved her life," Cass rasped, twisting in Gage's arms to look at Noah. Her voice was weak, but it cut clean. "He carried me. I stopped breathing." The phones caught it. The riders heard it. The trooper heard it. The deputy's story started to crumble in real time. The trooper stepped closer to Noah. "You okay, kid?" Noah tried to answer, but his ribs seized. His breath came out in a broken hiss. The world wobbled at the edges, and he hated that weakness more than the cold. Gage turned slightly so Cass was protected behind him, then looked at Noah for the first time like Noah wasn't a suspect, wasn't a problem, like Noah was a person. "What's your name?" Gage asked again, quieter now. "Noah," Noah managed. Gage nodded once. "Noah, you did something no grown man on this pass did tonight. You hear me?" Noah's throat tightened. He couldn't speak. The deputy recovered fast. Too fast. He stepped into the moment like a man jumping back onto a stage. "Trooper, this crowd is obstructing," he said. "We need to clear the roadway. Cass can ride with me to the hospital." Cass jerked, pain flashing across her face. No, I'm not going with him. The deputy's eyes hardened. Ma'am, you're confused. I'm not, Cass snapped. The effort made her cough, and she sagged into Gage's chest again. He was there, after the crash. 2 men. They opened my door. Gage's jaw clenched. 2 men. Cass nodded, eyes squeezing shut. Boots. Work boots. They took my phone. They took... Her breath hitched. They took Dad's patch, the one in my bag. A ripple went through the riders behind Gage, not anger expressed, just the shift of 100 people hearing a sacred object was stolen. A club patch wasn't cloth. It was identity. It was a line you didn't cross. The deputy lifted his chin. There's no evidence of that. Noah's mouth tasted like metal. He forced words out anyway. They had her phone in the building. The scarfed man's head snapped toward Noah, eyes bright with warning. The deputy shot Noah a look that said, "You're going to regret that." The trooper's gaze followed Noah's line of sight and landed on the scarfed man and the bearded man lingering near the truck, trying to look invisible. "And who are you two?" the trooper asked. The scarfed man spread his hands. "County Road Services responded to a break-in." The trooper's eyes narrowed. "Name?" The scarfed man hesitated, just a beat, then said, "Eli." "Last name?" Another beat. "Danner." The trooper's posture changed, slight, focused, like something clicked in his head. The deputy snapped, "Trooper, we don't have time for—" "We have time," the trooper said, still looking at the scarfed man, "because I'm starting to wonder why county workers were inside an abandoned building in a blizzard at 2 a.m. The scarfed man's eyes darted. "We got a call." "What call?" the trooper asked. The deputy jumped in, voice smooth again. "Dispatch call. Property alarm." The trooper didn't look at him. "Dispatch didn't tell me that, and I came up the pass for a missing juvenile, not an alarm." The deputy's face tightened. "You calling me a liar?" "I'm saying the stories don't match," the trooper replied calmly. "And I'm looking at an injured girl, a kid with blood on his face, and 2 county workers who can't give me a last name without thinking." Gage's voice cut in, low and controlled. "My daughter needs an ambulance. Now?" The trooper nodded. "We'll get EMS moving." The deputy's eyes flashed. "We don't have EMS available in this storm." Gage didn't blink. "Then I'll drive her myself." The deputy's hand lifted, stopping him. "You're not taking her anywhere until we finish statements." Cass whimpered, pain ripping through her. Gage tightened his hold, and Noah saw the exact moment Gage decided he wasn't going to let paperwork kill his kid. The trooper stepped between them. "Deputy, back off." The deputy's voice sharpened. "She's evidence in an ongoing investigation." Gage's eyes went black. "She's my daughter." The trooper held his ground. "Cass is going with her father to the hospital. Now, you can follow." For a split second, Noah thought that was it, that the badge had lost. But the deputy wasn't done. He turned toward Noah, voice loud enough for every phone. "And this suspect is coming with us." Noah's stomach dropped. The trooper stared. "He needs medical care." "He also committed felonies," the deputy said. "Breaking and entering, assault, possible abduction." "Abduction?" Gage repeated, voice deadly soft. The deputy didn't even hesitate. "He was found with your daughter in his arms." Noah felt the ground tilt. This was the trap. This was the story they were building from the beginning. Cass lifted her head weakly, eyes wide. "No!" The deputy cut her off. "Ma'am, you're traumatized. You don't know what happened." Noah's hands shook. He could already see it. Headlines, mugshot, homeless kid, rich biker girl. Easy lie. Everyone would eat it. The trooper stepped toward Noah. "That's not—" The deputy raised his radio. "Dispatch, I need transport for a juvenile suspect, immediate. Also request supervisor." Static hissed, then a voice answered. "Copy." The deputy looked at Noah with a thin smile. "You're going to jail, kid. You can tell your hero story to a judge." Gage stared at the deputy, then at Noah, as if he was weighing how to stop this without making the exact excuse they wanted. Cass clung to Gage's jacket. "Dad, please. He saved me." The deputy snapped his fingers at the scarfed man. "Search him." Noah backed up a step instinctively. The scarfed man moved in, reaching for Noah's pockets. And that's when Noah felt it, something hard in his coat lining that hadn't been there before. A rectangular weight tucked near his ribs. Cold dread crawled up his spine, because he hadn't put anything there. And if they'd slipped something into his jacket while he was pinned, then they weren't just arresting him, they were planting the ending. The scarfed man's gloved fingers slid into Noah's torn jacket like he owned it. Noah jerked back. "Don't touch me!" The deputy's hand shot out and grabbed Noah's collar again, snapping him forward. "Hold still!" The scarfed man patted Noah down with fake professionalism, fast and aggressive. He hit Noah's ribs, right where that hard rectangle sat, and paused. Noah felt it like a nail through fabric. The scarfed man's eyes flicked up, quick, satisfied. Noah's mouth went dry. "I didn't—" "Shut up," the deputy said. The scarfed man dug into the lining and pulled out a small black zip pouch, the kind you could clip inside a jacket, the kind that didn't belong to Noah. He held it up so the phones could see. "There we go," the deputy said, voice loud, clean, practiced. "What's inside, Eli?" Eli unzipped it slow, like he was opening a present. Inside was Cass's pale blue phone, and beneath it, flat, metallic, reflective even in stormlight, was a club patch in a clear plastic sleeve, a silver eagle. Veil. Noah felt his blood drain out so fast his vision swam. "That's not mine," he said, but his voice came out thin, pathetic against the certainty of what they were showing. The deputy turned slightly so every camera got the angle he wanted. Noah, shaking, homeless-looking, blood on his face, stolen items displayed like trophies. "Recovered stolen property," the deputy announced, "from the suspect." A murmur rippled through the riders, low, tense, contained by Gage's earlier command. But it wasn't calm anymore. It was restraint under pressure, a muscle about to tear. Cass made a strangled sound from Gage's arms. "No, he didn't take it. They took it. Pain hit her mid-sentence. She doubled over, clutching her side. Gage tightened his hold instantly, his hands gentle on her ribs. "Breathe, baby," he murmured. "Breathe." The deputy seized the moment. "She's in shock. She's not a reliable witness right now." Cass tried to lift her head again, furious and terrified. "Dad, I swear." Gage looked at the pouch, then at Noah, then at the scarfed man holding it like a prize. Gage's face didn't change much, but his eyes did. They went cold in a way that made the air feel thinner. "Noah," Gage said quietly, "look at me." Noah forced his gaze up. "Did you have that pouch before they put hands on you?" Gage asked. "No," Noah said immediately. "No, I didn't even know it was there." The deputy laughed. "Sure." Gage didn't look at the deputy. He looked at the trooper. "Trooper," Gage said, voice even. "If that evidence was found during an unlawful search and my daughter is saying they took it, what does that mean?" The trooper's eyes were on the pouch now, locked. He looked at Eli, then at the deputy, then at the open truck door where Cass had been sitting, alone, before Gage pulled her out. "What's your body cam status?" the trooper asked the deputy. The deputy didn't answer fast enough. The trooper's jaw tightened. "Deputy, body cam." The deputy's nostrils flared. "Battery died?" The trooper stared at him. "Convenient." Eli shifted his weight, suddenly stepping back like he didn't want to be in the center of the frame anymore. Gage's voice stayed calm, but it had an edge now. "My men are filming, multiple angles. If you're planting evidence on a kid who saved my daughter, you better be absolutely sure you want that on the internet forever." The deputy's eyes flicked to the phones again. He saw the lights, the lenses, the trooper, the crowd. He made a quick decision. "Trooper," the deputy said, switching tactics. "You want to do this by the book? Fine. We'll take him in and process it properly. You can argue it later. Right now, we're clearing the roadway." He grabbed Noah's arm and twisted it behind his back. Pain shot through Noah's shoulder. Noah hissed and nearly collapsed. "Stop!" Cass cried, struggling to lift herself, but Gage held her tight to keep her from falling. Gage's voice dropped into something dangerous. "Let him go!" The deputy ignored him. He shoved Noah toward the trooper SUV, trying to move fast before the situation shifted again. Noah stumbled, boots slipping. He tasted blood again from biting his tongue. The trooper stepped in, blocking the deputy. "I said he needs medical attention." "He's fine," the deputy snapped. Noah wheezed. "I can't—" His ribs seized. He bent involuntarily, pain cutting his breath in half. The trooper's eyes flicked down. He could see it. This kid wasn't fine. He was barely upright. Gage leaned forward slightly. "Noah did CPR in a blizzard. He carried her. Look at him." The trooper hesitated, caught between badge loyalty and what was right in front of him. The deputy used the hesitation like a weapon. He shoved Noah again, harder toward the SUV. And in that shove, something fell from Noah's jacket pocket and hit the snow with a soft plastic click. Noah froze. So did the trooper. So did Gage. A small flash drive lay on the snow, half buried, its red cap bright against white. Noah stared at it like it was a snake. "I don't own that," Noah said, voice raw. "That's not mine." The deputy's face didn't change, but Eli's did, just for a fraction. Fear. The trooper crouched and picked up the flash drive with 2 fingers, holding it up to his flashlight beam. He looked at the deputy. "What is this?" The deputy's jaw jumped. Evidence. Gage's eyes went flat. "Or a setup." Cass's breathing went shallow again. "Dad," she whispered, as if the sight of it made something in her memory click. "The bag. There was a bag." Gage turned his head. "What bag?" Cass swallowed hard. In the snow, they were pulling it out of something. A duffel, like they needed it gone. Noah's stomach clenched. The rectangular imprint, the drag marks, the missing bag. The trooper looked at the flash drive again, then at the pouch with the phone and patch, then at Noah, who looked like he'd been run over by the storm. The trooper's voice came out low. "Deputy? Who exactly are those 2 men?" The deputy's eyes hardened. "County." The trooper's gaze shifted to Eli. "Then they'll have IDs." Eli hesitated. The bearded man shifted too, hand drifting toward his coat as if for a wallet or something else. Gage's riders behind him went still in a way that felt like a warning siren without sound. "Show your IDs," the trooper ordered. Eli's eyes darted to the deputy. The deputy gave the smallest shake of his head, almost imperceptible. And Eli made his choice. He bolted, straight into the blizzard, running along the fence line, disappearing into the white as if he'd been swallowed. The bearded man lunged after him. The deputy shouted, "Stop! Get back here!" But his voice sounded wrong, like a man yelling at an actor who went off script. The trooper spun, hand reaching for his radio, too late to stop them. Gage's head snapped toward his riders. "No one chase," he said instantly. "Stay. Cameras up." Noah watched the 2 men vanish into the storm and felt a sick certainty settle in his bones. If those men got away, the deputy would make sure Noah paid for all of it. The trooper gripped the flash drive tighter, then looked at Noah with a new expression. 1 part suspicion, 1 part doubt, 1 part urgency. "You're coming with me," the trooper said. The deputy stepped forward fast. "He's coming with us." The trooper's voice hardened. "Not anymore." The deputy's hand moved toward his belt, and the blizzard swallowed the last of the fleeing men as Cass whispered, barely audible, "Dad, the drive. It's what they wanted." The deputy's fingers hovered near his belt like he wanted everyone to notice he had the power to end the conversation with metal and paperwork. Snow blew between him and the trooper in hard streaks, turning the road into a narrow stage lit by headlights and phone screens. The trooper didn't blink. He held the flash drive up in 2 fingers, just high enough for cameras to catch it. "This is coming with me," he said. "And the kid is coming with me. Medical first." The deputy's jaw worked. "He's my detainee." The trooper's voice stayed flat. "Not if this scene is compromised." That word, compromised, landed like a stone. The deputy's eyes flicked to the riders, to Gage, to Cass pressed to her father's chest, to the phones recording from every angle. He knew exactly how fast a lie could rot in public. He couldn't back down clean. So he changed the ground. "Fine," the deputy said suddenly, louder, performative. "Take him. But we're doing this by the book. You're going to transport him to county for processing after he's cleared medically. That evidence stays sealed." The trooper stared at him. "It's already on camera." The deputy's mouth tightened. "Seal it anyway." Gage didn't speak. He just watched. Noah could feel Gage's eyes on him like a hand on his back, steadying him without touching. Cass's face went gray again, and she sagged. Pain ripped through her ribs with every breath. Gage felt it instantly. "We're going now," Gage said, voice controlled but final. "Hospital." The deputy stepped half a pace to block. "You leave. You're obstructing." Cass lifted her head, shaking, and glared at him with a fury that cut through her weakness. "Touch my dad, and I'll tell everyone exactly what you did." The deputy froze. Gage didn't argue. He simply turned, guiding Cass toward his bike line, where 2 riders had already positioned a large touring bike as a windbreak, and another had a thermal blanket out like they'd rehearsed it 100 times. The trooper jerked his chin at Noah. "You, move!" Noah tried. His legs didn't want to. The moment he stepped, his ribs clenched like a fist. He folded slightly, breath hitching, and the world flashed at the edges. The trooper grabbed his elbow, not rough, firm. Slow. The deputy stayed close, too close, like a shadow that wanted to keep ownership. Noah whispered, barely moving his lips. "He put it in my coat." The trooper didn't respond, but his grip on Noah tightened, and his eyes flicked to the deputy, then away. They walked Noah toward the trooper SUV, headlights cutting long shadows across the snow. Noah could still hear Cass crying softly behind him, Gage murmuring to her, riders shifting, engines idling low. Then the deputy spoke again, quieter, meant only for Noah and the trooper. "You know what happens to kids like you when you're accused of taking a girl like that," the deputy said. "They don't ask questions. They decide." Noah felt his stomach drop. He didn't answer. Any word would sound like guilt. The trooper opened the rear door of his SUV and helped Noah in. The heat inside hit Noah's skin like pain, and his teeth started chattering uncontrollably, not just from cold, but from the shock finally catching up. The trooper slammed the door and walked around to the driver's seat. The deputy stepped to the window, tapping it once with two knuckles, as if reminding Noah he could still reach him through glass and law. "You stay quiet," the deputy mouthed. Noah stared straight ahead. The trooper started the SUV and shifted into drive. That's when Noah saw it. A small red light blinking inside the glove compartment seam of the trooper SUV. Tiny, steady, like a device was active. Not the car's dash light. Something added. His heart kicked. He'd seen those before at shelters, stuck under counters, cheap audio recorders people used to catch someone saying the wrong thing. The trooper pulled out slowly, passing the deputy's truck. The deputy didn't move, but his hand went up to his radio and he spoke into it, eyes never leaving Noah's window. Noah couldn't hear the words over the wind in the SUV's engine, but he saw the effect. At the far end of the road, another set of headlights appeared through the storm. Close, not state, not bikes. A county vehicle, coming toward them like it had been waiting. The trooper's radio crackled. "County to state, requesting you stand down and return the juvenile to our custody. Repeat, return the juvenile." The trooper's hands tightened on the wheel. He glanced in the mirror at the deputy's truck, then forward at the approaching county lights. Noah's throat went tight. "Where are you taking me?" The trooper didn't answer right away. He drove another 50 yards, then pulled into a small turnout half buried in snow, positioning his SUV so the headlights of the approaching county vehicle couldn't see into the back seat as easily. He killed the engine. For a moment, all Noah heard was the storm and his own teeth chattering. The trooper turned in his seat and looked back at Noah, face lit by dashboard glow. He held up the flash drive inside a clear evidence bag. "You said they put this on you," the trooper said quietly. "And Cass says 2 men took her phone and a patch." Noah nodded, throat working. "They had the phone in the building. Then suddenly it's in my coat." The trooper stared at him for a long beat. Then his eyes flicked to the glove compartment seam again, to that tiny blinking light. He reached over, popped the glove compartment open, and pulled out a small black recorder, still running. Noah's stomach dropped. "That's not mine," the trooper said, voice tight. He clicked it off and pocketed it like it burned. Outside, tires crunched close. A vehicle stopped behind them. Doors opened. The trooper put the SUV in park and didn't move. A flashlight beam swept across the rear window. A knock hit the driver's window, hard. Then the deputy's voice, muffled through glass, calm again, like he owned the night. "Trooper," he called, "open the door." The trooper didn't. Noah's breath fogged the window. His chest tightened with panic, because he understood the shape of the next lie before it was told. If the deputy got him back, Noah wouldn't be processed. He'd be erased. The deputy knocked again, louder, more impatient, and from the storm behind the deputy's voice, another sound approached. Engines, not bikes this time. Too many, too heavy. Vehicles moving in, closing the road. The deputy kept knocking like the world was still normal. 1, 2, 3 hard taps, measured, controlled, then a pause long enough for him to decide how to make it look on camera if it went sideways. "Trooper," he called again, voice smooth through the glass, "open the door." Noah sat rigid in the back seat, fogging the window with shallow breaths. His ribs throbbed in time with his heartbeat. The warmth of the SUV had stopped feeling like comfort and started feeling like a cage. The trooper didn't move. Outside, the deputy's flashlight beam swept across the windshield, then flicked off, like he didn't want the road behind him lit. Noah heard it then too. Tires. More than one vehicle. Coming up slow through the snow, engines low, lights dimmed until they were close. Not bikes. County. The deputy leaned close to the trooper's window, and Noah saw his mouth move, deliberate. "You're making this difficult." The trooper finally spoke, voice steady but tight. "Back up. You're contaminating my stop." The deputy laughed, a short sound that didn't reach his eyes. "Your stop? You're in my county, with my detainee, with my evidence." The trooper's hand drifted toward his own radio, but he didn't key it. He looked in his side mirror, reading the road behind. Noah shifted and saw the reflection too, a line of headlights spreading out to block the turnout, a county SUV, a county truck, another vehicle Noah couldn't make out, 3, maybe 4, a blockade. The deputy straightened, satisfied. He stepped back and raised his radio. "Supervisor on scene," he said into it. "Proceed." The county vehicles stopped in a staggered line, creating a wall behind the trooper SUV. Doors opened. Shapes moved in the snow. Flashlights angled low, not to see, just to be seen. The deputy wasn't alone anymore. The trooper's jaw clenched. He turned slightly toward Noah. "Listen to me. Do not say anything unless I ask you directly. Got it?" Noah nodded, throat too tight for words. The deputy walked toward the driver's door again, but he didn't knock this time. He reached for the handle. Locked. He tried again, hard. Locked. The trooper's eyes didn't leave him. "Step away from my vehicle." The deputy held up his hands, palms out, mock innocent, then tilted his head toward the county units behind him like he was inviting the trooper to consider how alone he was. A new voice boomed from the storm, older, heavier, carrying authority. "Trooper Hensley." Noah's stomach dropped at the name. Now it wasn't just a deputy with an agenda, it was command. A man approached from the county line of vehicles, broad, hat pulled low, sergeant stripes on his sleeve. He walked like the snow didn't matter. He stopped by the trooper's window and leaned in just enough to be intimidating without touching. "Open your door," the sergeant ordered. The trooper didn't flinch. "Identify yourself." The sergeant's mouth tightened. "Sergeant Claiborne, Briar Ridge County. You're holding our detainee and our evidence." Noah's hands curled into fists in his lap. The words hit him like cold water. "Our detainee." The trooper's voice stayed calm. "The juvenile is injured. He needs EMS. The scene is compromised." The sergeant's eyes flicked toward the rear window, toward Noah's shape in the back seat. "He looks fine to me." Noah nearly laughed, except laughing would have split his ribs open. The deputy stepped into frame, eager now that backup was here. "He assaulted county workers, broke into county property, stole a phone and a patch." "Planted," Noah whispered before he could stop himself. The trooper's head snapped slightly, warning. Noah clamped his mouth shut. The sergeant's eyes narrowed. "What was that?" The trooper cut in instantly. "The victim has stated the items were taken from her at the crash. 2 men fled the scene when asked for ID. I have multiple civilian recordings. I'm securing the evidence until EMS arrives." The sergeant's face didn't change, but Noah could see the decision behind his eyes. Control the narrative, control the evidence, control the kid. "EMS isn't coming in this," the sergeant said. "Road's getting worse. We're transporting him." The trooper's posture tightened. "Not to county." The sergeant leaned closer, voice dropping, meant to sound reasonable. "Trooper, don't make this a thing. You're outnumbered. You're tired. Hand him over, and we'll handle it." Noah felt panic rise like bile. Handle it meant bury it. The trooper stared at the sergeant for a long second, then glanced at his dash cam, then at his own body cam, then at the county vehicles blocking the turnout. "Move your units," the trooper said. "You're obstructing." The sergeant smiled. Not friendly. No. Snow hissed. Engines idled. Flashlights bobbed like slow fireflies. And then, cutting through everything, came a new sound, louder than engines, sharper than wind. A helicopter. Noah's head jerked instinctively toward the sky. The noise grew fast, the chop of blades swallowing the storm. The sergeant's smile faltered. The deputy's head snapped up, alarm flashing across his face. Searchlight beams knifed down through the whiteout, sweeping the turnout, washing the vehicles in harsh daylight. A loudspeaker crackled, distorted but clear enough to punch through the cold. "This is state air support. All units hold position. Do not move the juvenile or the evidence." The sergeant froze. The deputy's face drained. The trooper exhaled once, slow, like he'd been holding his breath for miles. Because Gage Vale hadn't just brought bikes, he'd brought the sky. The helicopter's searchlight locked onto the turnout like a spotlight on a confession. Snow turned into glitter in the beam. Every county vehicle, every badge, every face was suddenly too visible to lie comfortably. The loudspeaker crackled again, firmer this time. "All units, back away from the state vehicle. Supervisor, identify yourself." Sergeant Claiborne looked up at the light, then at the phones that had started recording again the moment the chopper appeared. His mouth opened, then closed. He'd built this stop for darkness, for isolation, for no witnesses. The sky had ruined the script. The trooper reached down and clicked his body cam twice, audible inside the car. Then he spoke into his radio, crisp. "Trooper Hensley. I have a juvenile in need of medical attention, potential evidence tampering by county personnel, and a victim statement contradicting county's claims, requesting immediate state supervisor on scene." The deputy's posture shifted. He didn't advance anymore. He stayed still, hands visible, eyes darting like he was searching for an exit that didn't exist. Noah sat in the back seat, shaking, not from cold now, but from the sudden realization that for the first time tonight, the bad guys couldn't control who was watching. A new set of headlights pushed through the storm, state units, marked differently, moving with purpose. 2 SUVs slid in behind the county blockade and stopped at angles that made it clear this road belonged to the state now. Doors opened, troopers stepped out. Not one, not two, 4. One of them, a woman with a white supervisor's hat, walked straight into the helicopter beam as if she liked being seen. Her boots crunched in snow. She didn't look at the deputy first. She looked at the county sergeant. "Sergeant Claiborne," she said, calm and lethal, "why are your units blocking a state trooper from transporting an injured juvenile?" Claiborne tried to hold his ground. "Ma'am, that juvenile is a suspect in..." "In what?" the supervisor cut in. "And why did your county workers flee when asked for identification?" Claiborne's eyes flicked toward the deputy like he wanted him to answer. The deputy stepped forward, voice smooth, trying to rescue the narrative. "Ma'am, we recovered stolen property from the juvenile, phone and a..." "Stop," the supervisor said without raising her voice. The deputy stopped mid-word like he'd hit a wall. The supervisor pointed once. "Trooper Hensley, step out. Bring the evidence bag." Hensley opened his door carefully, keeping his hands visible, and stepped into the storm. He lifted the flash drive bag in the beam of the searchlight so cameras, dash, phones, helicopter, caught it clearly. The supervisor nodded once, then looked at the county deputy. "Name and badge number." The deputy hesitated, just a fraction, then answered. But his voice wasn't confident anymore. The supervisor turned to another trooper. "Secure his body cam." The deputy's face tightened. It died. The supervisor didn't blink. "Then we'll download it and see when it died." A subtle movement rippled through the county line. Claiborne shifted, trying to reassert control. "Ma'am, we can handle this internally." "No," the supervisor said. "You can't." She stepped closer to the rear window of the trooper SUV. Her flashlight beam angled in, catching Noah's face. Blood dried at the corner of his mouth, skin pale, eyes wide and exhausted. "Kid," she said, voice softer now. "What's your name?" Noah swallowed. "Noah. You need medical attention?" Noah nodded. "My ribs. I can't breathe right." She looked back at Hensley. "EMS?" "On the way with state escort," Hensley said. "I called the moment county tried to box us in." The supervisor turned her head toward Claiborne. "So EMS was available." Claiborne said nothing. Behind them, Gage's bike line was visible now in the distance, still there, still disciplined, still recording. Gage himself stood near Cass in a sheltered cluster of riders, her wrapped in thermal blankets. Noah could see him through the snow, one hand on Cass's shoulder, eyes locked on the turnout like he was willing himself not to step into it. Because he knew, if he did, they'd call it intimidation, they'd call it a mob, they'd turn the truth into a threat. The supervisor motioned to 2 troopers. "Remove the county vehicles from behind the state unit, now." The troopers moved. Calm, professional, unstoppable. They didn't argue, they didn't posture, they simply walked up to the county drivers and gave orders that weren't requests. Claiborne raised his voice. "This is my county." The supervisor cut him off. "And this is my investigation now." The deputy's face hardened with desperation. He took a step toward the trooper SUV, like he was about to force the issue while he still could. Hensley shifted instantly, stepping into the space, blocking the deputy cleanly. "Back up." The deputy's hand twitched near his belt again, and in that twitch, the supervisor saw everything she needed. "Deputy," she said sharply, "hands on the hood of your vehicle." The deputy froze. For one heartbeat, Noah thought he was going to do something stupid, but the helicopter beam and the state troopers and the phones held him in place like gravity. Slowly, the deputy complied. Hands on hood, spread. A trooper moved in and secured him, quick, controlled, not violent, just final. Claiborne's mouth opened. "Ma'am, Sergeant," the supervisor snapped, "you're next if you interfere." The cuff click sounded small in the storm, but Noah heard it like a bell. Then the supervisor turned to Hensley and held out her hand. "Evidence." Hensley passed the flash drive bag over. The supervisor didn't pocket it. She held it up so the helicopter camera could see. "Chain of custody starts now," she said clearly. "On record." Claiborne's face went gray. Because chain of custody meant the flash drive wasn't disappearing into a desk drawer. It meant whatever was on it was about to be seen by the wrong people, the kind of people you can't intimidate with a county jacket. Noah's breath shook, his ribs screamed, but for the first time all night he felt something else under the pain. The lie was collapsing. And then Cass's voice came through the storm from the bike line, weak but urgent, carried by the riders around her. "Dad, my phone, it has..." Her words broke into a cough, and Gage leaned close to her listening. The supervisor's head snapped toward the sound. "What did she say?" the supervisor asked. Hensley answered, eyes sharp. "Victim says her phone had something. Something they wanted." The supervisor looked at the pouch with the phone and patch, still in Eli's abandoned glove or lying in county hands back at the original scene. Her gaze hardened. "Locate the phone," she ordered. "Now." Hensley's radio crackled with a new message from a trooper up the pass. "We've got county impound en route from Briar Ridge, and a second vehicle trying to leave the area." The supervisor's voice turned ice cold. "Stop that vehicle." Noah watched through fogged glass as state troopers moved like a net closing. County units were being repositioned, people were being separated, names taken, cameras everywhere, and somewhere out in the blizzard, a county driver realized the world had changed and hit the gas anyway. The county sedan hit the gas and tried to punch through the snow like speed could erase what had already been recorded. It didn't get far. A state SUV swung wide and blocked the lane with its nose angled hard, forcing the sedan to brake or ram. The sedan fishtailed, tires screaming on ice, and stopped sideways in a drift. Troopers moved in fast, flashlights pinned to the driver's window, commands crisp and unmistakable. "Hands where we can see them," the driver hesitated. That hesitation ended with a door being yanked open and a man being pulled out into the storm, face first into snow, cuffed before he could form a sentence. From inside the sedan, a trooper lifted a sealed evidence pouch high enough for the helicopter beam to catch it. A pale blue phone case, an ID card, and a second smaller flash drive taped beneath the center console like it had been hidden in a hurry. The supervisor didn't celebrate. She just nodded once, like the night had finally started obeying the rules again. "Impound every county vehicle involved," she said. "Phones, cams, radios. Nobody leaves until I say." Back in the trooper SUV, Noah watched through the fogged glass as the scene shifted from chaos to procedure. Names were taken, hands were searched. County uniforms were separated and kept apart like they could contaminate each other. And then the ambulance finally arrived, escorted by state units like a VIP. The paramedics opened Noah's door and heat spilled out. Real heat this time, not the thin warmth of a car. One of them took one look at Noah's posture, how he guarded his ribs, how his breaths came shallow, and his tone changed instantly. "Easy, buddy, we've got you." Noah tried to stand and almost folded. The paramedics caught him before he hit the snow, guiding him onto a stretcher, strapping him down with practiced hands. Noah's eyes flicked past them, scanning the storm for Cass. He found her near the bike line, wrapped in blankets and held upright against Gage's chest. Her face was pale, but her eyes were open, locked on Noah with a fierce, stubborn gratitude. Gage saw the stretcher and walked toward it, not rushing, keeping Cass steady as he came. He stopped close enough that Noah could see the frost clinging to Gage's hair, the way his jaw was clenched like he'd been holding himself back for hours. "Noah," Gage said. Noah swallowed, throat raw. "She's okay?" Cass answered first, voice thin but present. "I'm here." Noah's eyes stung. He didn't let the tears fall. He couldn't afford that kind of weakness in front of this many people. He just nodded once, hard. Gage leaned in closer so only Noah could hear over the wind and the ambulance doors. "I'm going to tell you something," Gage said, "and I need you to believe me. Nobody touches you again tonight." Noah tried to speak. His chest seized and he coughed instead, pain spiking. Gage's face tightened, but his voice stayed steady. "You did CPR on my daughter. You carried her out of hell. That means something to me." He glanced past Noah to the state supervisor, who was now holding Cass's phone in a sealed bag while another trooper photographed it under the searchlight. Cass swallowed, then forced the words out, each one a struggle. "Dad." The phone. It was recording. The supervisor heard it and moved closer, careful not to crowd Cass. "Recording what?" she asked. Cass's eyes squeezed shut like she was pulling the memory out by force. "When they came to my window, I hit record by accident. I heard them talking about the duffel, about a deal, about your deputy." The supervisor's expression changed, small, sharp. "We'll extract it, properly." Gage's eyes went flat. "Do it." Within minutes, the storm scene became a moving convoy. Ambulance, state SUVs, and, at a distance, bikes following like a silent escort, not to intimidate, but to witness. At the hospital, they tried again to turn Noah into a problem. An intake clerk saw Noah's clothes, the blood, the word homeless in the first report, and her eyes did that little shift, away from his face toward the assumptions. But the doors behind the stretcher swung wider, and the entire hallway felt the change when it arrived, not the roar of engines this time, the presence. Gage Vale walked in carrying his daughter against his side, his club's lawyer at his shoulder, and a state supervisor behind them. Phones were out, badges were visible. The hospital's security stopped moving like this was a normal night. A doctor approached, cautious. "We need statements. We need treatment," the supervisor cut in. "Now." Cass was taken first. CT, blood work, trauma exam. The doctor's face tightened when the results came back. Fractured ribs, bruising consistent with being grabbed, hypothermia. Not a simple crash story. Noah was taken next. X-ray confirmed cracked ribs. His hands were scraped and swollen. His forearm was stitched. A nurse wrapped a warm blanket around his shoulders like she was trying to apologize for the world. Noah lay on the hospital bed staring at the ceiling tiles, listening to the muffled hallway. Voices, footsteps, radios. The adrenaline that had carried him for 13 miles was gone now, leaving only shaking exhaustion. The door opened. Gage came in alone. No leather swagger, no club posture, just a father with snow still melting in his hair and something heavy in his eyes. He closed the door behind him and stood there for a second, as if he was making sure nobody could rewrite this moment. "Noah," he said quietly. "They tried to frame you." Noah's throat tightened. "I know." Gage nodded. "We found the pouch clip inside your jacket seam on video. My guys got it. Multiple angles. You never touched that patch. You never touched her phone. The county deputy did." Noah stared, not quite able to process the words as real. Gage continued, voice controlled. "And the flash drive? It wasn't yours either. State pulled a second one from the sedan that tried to run. Same kind. Same tape residue. Same hands." Noah swallowed. "What's on it?" Gage exhaled through his nose. "Enough." In the hallway, a commotion rose, voices sharp, then the clipped rhythm of orders. The state supervisor's voice carried briefly, "He's under arrest. Do not let him access his phone." Then, quiet again. Gage looked at Noah like he wanted to say 100 things, but chose the one that mattered. "My daughter's alive," he said, "because you didn't walk away." Noah's eyes burned. He forced the words out anyway. I almost did." Gage shook his head once. "But you didn't." He reached into his jacket and pulled out something folded, paperwork sealed in plastic. He set it on the bedside table. "What's that?" Noah asked. "A temporary housing placement," Gage said. "Not a shelter, a room, warm, real, and a lawyer, and a social worker who isn't connected to this county." Noah's breath caught. "I don't want—" "You're not owing me," Gage cut in, calm but final. "You're not joining anything. You're not becoming somebody's mascot. You're getting a chance to breathe." Noah stared at the paperwork like it might vanish if he blinked. Gage leaned closer, voice lowering. "Cass asked for one thing before they took her for scans." Noah's chest tightened. "What?" "She said, 'Don't let them take Noah.'" Noah's throat closed. He turned his face slightly, trying to hide it, but the tears came anyway, silent, hot, unstoppable. Gage didn't comment on them. He just stood there until Noah could breathe again. Then he said, "One more thing." Noah looked up. Gage's eyes were steady. "I don't know what your life has been. I don't know who failed you. But I do know this. 500 bikes are coming into this town tomorrow morning. Not to threaten anyone. Not to burn anything down. To stand outside this hospital and make sure nobody forgets what happened tonight." Noah's voice was barely there. "Why?" Gage answered without hesitation. "Because people like you get erased. And tonight you didn't let my daughter disappear into the snow, so we're not letting you disappear into paperwork." Outside, early morning light began to press against the hospital windows. Gray, fragile, real. Noah looked at the ceiling one last time and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not hope, not yet, just safety. And down the corridor, the distant growing hum of engines began to rise, steady, organized, undeniable, rolling toward the hospital like a promise the town couldn't ignore.